Hello.
Oh, my name on. Meow. My kitty just said meow.
Yep. Spotty.
Wow. Come here.
Spotty always shows her butt to me, though.
No, not always. For your computer.
Okay, we're starting 2 Samuel now.
Oh, yay. Cool. No, 2 Samuel.
Yeah. 2 Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
2 Samuel, we so like you. Thank you for your book that you wrote. Yeah, okay.
Second Samuel, chapter 1. David learns of Saul's death. After the death of Saul, David returned from his victory over the Amalekites and spent 2 days in Ziklag. On the 3rd day, a man arrived from Saul's army camp. He had torn his clothes and put dirt on his head to show that he was in mourning. He fell to the ground before David in deep respect. "Where have you come from?" David asked. "I escaped from the Israelite camp," the man replied. "What happened?" David demanded. "Tell me how the battle went." The man replied, "Our entire army fled from the battle. Many of the men are dead, and Saul and his son Jonathan are also dead." "How do you know Saul and Jonathan are dead?" David demanded of the young man. The man answered, "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear with the enemy chariots and charioteers closing in on him. When he turned and saw me, he cried out for me to come to him. 'How can I help?' I asked him. He responded, 'Who are you?' 'I am an Amalekite,' I told him. Then he begged me, 'Come over here and put me out of my misery, for I am in terrible pain and want to die.' So I killed him," the Amalekite told David, "for I knew he couldn't live. Then I took his crown and his armband, and I have brought them here to you, my lord." David and his men tore their clothes in sorrow when they heard the news. They mourned and wept and fasted all day for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the Lord's army and the nation of Israel, because they had died by the sword that day. Then David said to the young man who had brought the news, "Where are you from?" And he replied, "I am a foreigner, an Amalekite who lives in your land." "Why were you not afraid to kill the Lord's anointed one?" David asked. Then David said to one of his men, "Kill him." So the man thrust his sword into the Amalekite and killed him. "You have condemned yourself," David said, "for you yourself confessed that you killed the Lord's anointed one." David's song for Saul and Jonathan. Then David composed a funeral song for Saul and Jonathan, and he commanded that it be taught to the people of Judah. It is known as the Song of the Bow, and it is recorded in the book of Jasher. "Your pride and joy, O Israel, lies dead on the hills. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Don't announce the news in Gath. Don't proclaim it in the streets of Ashkelon, or the daughters of the Philistines will rejoice and the pagans will laugh in triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew or rain upon you, nor fruitful fields producing offerings of grain. For there the shield of the mighty heroes was defiled. The shield of Saul will no longer be anointed with oil. The bow of Jonathan was powerful, and the sword of Saul did its mighty work. They shed the blood of their enemies and pierced the bodies of mighty heroes. How beloved and gracious were Saul and Jonathan. They were together in life and in death. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. O women of Israel, weep for Saul, for he dressed you in luxurious scarlet clothing, in garments decorated with gold. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies dead on the hills. How I weep for you, my brother Jonathan. Oh, how much I loved you, and your love for me was deep, deeper than the love of women. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Stripped of their weapons, they lie dead.
I love doing this Bible by chronologically because it was hard for me to understand the Bible the way it's set up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Chapter 2. David anointed king of Judah. After this, David asked the Lord, "Should I move back to one of the towns of Judah?" "Yes," the Lord replied. Then David asked, "Which town should I go to?" "To Hebron," the Lord answered. David's 2 wives were Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. So David and his wives and his men and their families all moved to Judah, and they settled in the villages near Hebron. Then the men of Judah came to David and crowned him king over the people of Judah. When David heard that the men of Jabesh Gilead had buried Saul, he sent them this message: "May the Lord bless you for being so loyal to your master Saul and giving him a decent burial. May the Lord be loyal to you in return and reward you with his unfailing love. And I, too, will reward you for what you have done. Now that Saul is dead, I ask you to be my strong and loyal subjects like the people of Judah, who have anointed me as their new king." Ishbosheth crowned king of Israel. But Abner, son of Ner, the commander of Saul's army, had already gone to Mahanaim with Saul's son Ishbosheth. There he proclaimed Ishbosheth king over Gilead, Jezreel, Ephraim, Benjamin, the land of the Asherites, and all the rest of Israel. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he became king, and he ruled from Mahanaim for 2 years. Meanwhile, the people of Judah remained loyal to David. David made Hebron his capital, and he ruled as king of Judah for 7.5 years. War between Israel and Judah. One day Abner led Ishbosheth's troops from Mahanaim to Gibeon. About the same time, Joab, son of Zeruiah, led David's troops out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. The 2 groups sat down there facing each other from opposite sides of the pool. Then Abner suggested to Joab, "Let's have a few of our warriors fight hand-to-hand here in front of us." "All right," Joab agreed. So 12 men were chosen to fight from each side. 12 men of Benjamin representing Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and 12 representing David. Each one grabbed his opponent by the hair and thrust his sword into the other's side so that all of them died. So this place at Gibeon has been known ever since as the Field of Swords. A fierce battle followed that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were defeated by the forces of David. The death of Asahel. Joab, Abishai, and Asahel, the 3 sons of Zeruiah, were among David's forces that day. Asahel could run like a gazelle, and he began chasing Abner. He pursued him relentlessly, not stopping for anything. When Abner looked back and saw him coming, he called out, "Is that you, Asahel?" "Yes, it is," he replied. "Go fight someone else," Abner warned. "Take on one of the younger men and strip him of his weapons." But Asahel kept right on chasing Abner. Again Abner shouted to him, "Get away from here! I don't want to kill you! How could I ever face your brother Joab again?" But Asahel refused to turn back. So Abner thrust the butt end of his spear through Asahel's stomach, and the spear came out through his back. He stumbled to the ground and died there. And everyone who came by that spot stopped and stood still when they saw Asahel lying there. When Joab and Abishai found out what had happened, they set out after Abner. The sun was just going down as they arrived at the hill of Ammah near Giah, along the road to the wilderness of Gibeon. Abner's troops from the tribe of Benjamin regrouped there at the top of the hill to take a stand. Abner shouted down to Joab, "Must we always be killing each other? Don't you realize that bitterness is the only result? When will you call off your men from chasing their Israelite brothers?" Then Joab said, "God only knows what would have happened if you hadn't spoken, for we would have chased you all night if necessary." So Joab blew the ram's horn, and his men stopped chasing the troops of Israel. All that night, Abner and his men retreated through the Jordan Valley. They crossed the Jordan River, traveling all through the morning, and didn't stop until they arrived at Mahanaim. Meanwhile, Joab and his men also returned home. When Joab counted his casualties, he discovered that only 19 men were missing, in addition to Asahel. But 360 of Abner's men had been killed, all from the tribe of Benjamin. Joab and his men took Asahel's body to Bethlehem and buried him there in his father's tomb. Then they traveled all night and reached Hebron at daybreak.
Cool.
Just a history class in school.
Yep.
It's really, really interesting when I'm reading it, but to remember it,
Oh, I know.
I'll have to read the Bible several more times to remember it.
Yeah.
Chapter 3. That was the beginning of a long war between those who were loyal to Saul and those loyal to David. As time passed, David became stronger and stronger, while Saul's dynasty became weaker and weaker. David's sons born in Hebron. These are the sons who were born to David in Hebron. The oldest was Amnon, whose mother was Ahinoam from Jezreel. The second was Daniel, whose mother was Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. The third was Absalom, whose mother was Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth was Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith. The fifth was Shephatiah, whose mother was Abital. The sixth was Ithream, whose mother was Eglah, David's wife. These sons were all born to David in Hebron. Abner joins forces with David. As the war between the house of Saul and the house of David went on, Abner became a powerful leader among those loyal to Saul. One day, Ishbosheth, Saul's son, accused Abner of sleeping with one of his father's concubines, a woman named Rizpah, daughter of Aiah. Abner was furious. "Am I some Judean dog to be kicked around like this?" he shouted. "After all I have done for your father Saul and his family and friends by not handing you over to David, is this my reward, that you find fault with me about this woman? May God strike me and even kill me if I don't do everything I can to help David get what the Lord has promised him. I'm going to take Saul's kingdom and give it to David. I will establish the throne of David over Israel as well as Judah, all the way from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south." Ishbosheth didn't dare say another word because he was afraid of what Abner might do. Then Abner sent messengers to David saying, "Doesn't the entire land belong to you? Make a solemn pact with me, and I will help turn over all of Israel to you." "All right," David replied, "but I will not negotiate with you unless you bring back my wife Michal, Saul's daughter, when you come." David then sent this message to Ishbosheth, Saul's son. "Give me back my wife Michal, for I bought her with the lives of 100 Philistines." So Ishbosheth took Michal away from her husband Palti, son of Laish. Palti followed along behind her as far as Bahurim, weeping as he went. Then Abner told him, "Go back home." So Palti returned. Meanwhile, Abner had consulted with the elders of Israel. "For some time now," he told them, "you have wanted to make David your king. Now is the time. For the Lord has said, I have chosen David to save my people Israel from the hands of the Philistines and from all their other enemies." Abner also spoke with the men of Benjamin. Then he went to Hebron to tell David that all the people of Israel and Benjamin had agreed to support him. When Abner and 20 of his men came to Hebron, David entertained them with a great feast. Then Abner said to David, "Let me go and call an assembly of all Israel to support my lord the king. They will make a covenant with you to make you their king, and you will rule over everything your heart desires." So David sent Abner safely on his way. Joab murders Abner. But just after David had sent Abner away in safety, Joab and some of David's troops returned from a raid, bringing much plunder with them. When Joab arrived, he was told that Abner had just been there visiting the king and had been sent away in safety. Joab rushed to the king and demanded, "What have you done? What do you mean by letting Abner get away? You know perfectly well that he came to spy on you and find out everything you're doing." Joab then left David and sent messengers to catch up with Abner, asking him to return. They found him at the well of Sirah and brought him back, though David knew nothing about it. When Abner arrived back at Hebron, Joab took him aside at the gateway as if to speak with him privately. But then he stabbed Abner in the stomach and killed him in revenge for killing his brother Asahel. When David heard about it, he declared, "I vow by the Lord that I and my kingdom are forever innocent of this crime against Abner, son of Ner. Joab and his family are the guilty ones. May the family of Joab be cursed in every generation with a man who has open sores or leprosy or who walks on crutches."
Were you saying something?
No, my kitty.
Oh, okay.
Or dies by the sword or begs for food. So Joab and his brother Abishai killed Abner because Abner had killed their brother Asahel at the battle of Gibeon. David mourns Abner's death. Then David said to Joab and all those who were with him, "Tear your clothes and put on burlap. Mourn for Abner." And King David himself walked behind the procession to the grave. They buried Abner in Hebron, and the king and all the people wept at his graveside. Then the king sang this funeral song for Abner. "Should Abner have died as fools die? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not chained. No, you were murdered, the victim of a wicked plot." All the people wept again for Abner. David had refused to eat anything on the day of the funeral, and now everyone begged him to eat. But David had made a vow, saying, "May God strike me and even kill me if I eat anything before sundown." This pleased the people very much. In fact, everything the king did pleased them. So everyone in Judah and all Israel understood that David was not responsible for Abner's murder. Then King David said to his officials, "Don't you realize that a great commander has fallen today in Israel? And even though I am the anointed king, these two sons of Zeruiah, Joab and Abishai, are too strong for me to control. So may the Lord repay these evil men for their evil deeds."
Wow.
Okay, last chapter.
Okay. Cool.
Chapter 4. The Murder of Ishbosheth. When Ishbosheth, Saul's son, heard about Abner's death at Hebron, he lost all courage, and all Israel became paralyzed with fear. Now there were two brothers, Baanah and Rechab, who were captains of Ishbosheth's raiding parties. They were sons of Rimmon, a member of the tribe of Benjamin who lived in Beeroth. The town of Beeroth is now part of Benjamin's territory because the original people of Beeroth fled to Gittaim, where they still live as foreigners. Saul's son Jonathan had a son named Mephibosheth, who was crippled as a child. He was 5 years old when the report came from Jezreel that Saul and Jonathan had been killed in battle. When the child's nurse heard the news, she picked him up and fled. But as she hurried away, she dropped him, and he became crippled. One day, Rechab and Baanah, the sons of Rimmon from Beeroth, went to Ishbosheth's house around noon as he was taking his midday rest. The doorkeeper, who...
Yeah, I had to wipe my nose, and I didn't want everybody watching me wipe my nose. Okay.
Who had been sifting wheat, became drowsy and fell asleep. So Rechab and Baanah slipped past her. They went into the house and found Ishbosheth sleeping on his bed. They struck and killed him and cut off his head. Then, taking his head with them, they fled across the Jordan Valley through the night. When they arrived at Hebron, they presented Ishbosheth's head to David. "Look," they exclaimed to the king, "here is the head of Ishbosheth, the son of your enemy Saul, who tried to kill you. Today the Lord has given my lord the king revenge on Saul and his entire family." But David said to Rechab and Baanah, "The Lord who saves me from all my enemies is my witness. Someone once told me Saul is dead, thinking he was bringing me good news, but I seized him and killed him at Ziklag. That's the reward I gave him for his news. How much more should I reward evil men who have killed an innocent man in his own house and on his own bed? Shouldn't I hold you responsible for his blood and rid the earth of you?" So David ordered his young men to kill them. They cut off their hands and feet and hung their bodies beside the pool in Hebron. Then they took Ishbosheth's head and buried it in Abner's tomb in Hebron.
Okay. We're back to Psalms.
Okay, cool.
I would just like to be able to question the people who put the Bible together and What was your reasoning? What is God's reasoning? I guess that's questioning God, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. But, excuse me.
So we're back to reading Restoring the Christian Family, which we started reading because our marriage was, we need a lot of work to learn how to. Okay, we're back to reading Restoring the Christian Family because we decided to read this because we've been separated for about 9 years, and finally the Lord just really, we're giving everything to the Lord, and we're trying to learn.
10 years, dear.
10 years. Yeah, been a long time. And we're trying to learn how to put our family together and how to function once the Lord puts us together. And we trust that He will in His good time. So we're at here. A beautiful woman came to us who had 3 horrendous marriages. Each time she had dated a loving, gentle man, had been unable to become interested in him, and had ditched him to marry a drunken, violent bum. We could see that the next marriage was likely to turn out the same way. For a long time, she came for prayer ministry. We could find in her relation to the man she called her father nothing so vitiating as to create such a pattern. One day she muttered again and again while rocking back and forth, "I don't have a father. I don't have a father." Then she admitted, for the first time, what she had never been able to tell us before, that her father was in fact her stepfather, and that she had met her natural father only once, when she was 18. He had been a drunken, violent bum who had beaten on her mother again and again, while her mother carried her. When she was 6 months old in the womb, her father pinned her mother's arms behind her, while the mother screamed, "I hate you, I hate you, I'll kill you," whereupon he left and never returned. The baby came out of the womb with totally ambivalent feelings. First, her bitterness toward her father was buried and forgotten. Later, when any man was ever angry or the least bit out of control, forgotten pain threatened to the surface and overwhelmed her. So she learned early to keep pain suppressed by making herself unaware when men were threatening her. Therefore, when she met a flattering yet violent and drunken man, she automatically minimized his negative qualities and fell prey to the flattery. Unidentified bitterness about repeated wounding reinforced a lifelong tendency to distrust the idea that there is such thing as a gentle man. She increasingly identified fatherly love with the violence she had felt so early in life, even while minimizing that violence. Therefore, any violent, drunken man could reach depths and stir responses no gentle man could. Second, virulent, hidden judgment. Men are like that. And
Virulent. Sorry.
what?
Sorry, virulent.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Virulent.
Okay. Bitter expectancy that the man of her life would be drunken, violent bum ran rampant below the level of consciousness. No man who could upset that judgment could be allowed close enough to threaten the inner world. Therefore, gentle men had to be ditched before they got too close. For me, I've seen the pattern in my life. I've always chosen men that were not good for me. And in the beginning of our marriage, and I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for a Christian man.
Yeah.
The Lord brought me a Christian man, but
Yeah.
pattern still continued somewhat for me, and we struggled for a long time.
Yeah.
But what I'm really grateful about is that finally we're both able to put God first, look to God first, and look to Him for the healing for each of our inner stuff that's going on that caused our behavior that that damaged the marriage.
Right.
That I really, really appreciate. Because I really feel God did put us together, and I prayed for you to come into my life, a Christian man.
Yep.
So God put us together. We just need to do our work to heal ourselves so we can be what God wants us to be.
Together.
It was not this pattern alone that caused her husbands to become drunken or to beat on her. It was already in them to be that way. That is what made them appealing to her. But what determined whether it would help such men change or drive them further into it was what was in her. Her bitter root defiled the men around her. And my bitter root defiled you, and I was angry and hurt, and I was mean towards you for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. You've already apologized. So,
Yeah, I've already apologized just like you've already apologized, and we've already forgiven each other. The law of sowing and reaping thus had an easy field to bring forth its tares in abundance. For her husbands, marriage to her was like stepping into a cascade through a gorge. The law of sowing to the waters reaped a roaring river destruction. Okay, we can stop there.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to pray?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Dear God, we just pray. We thank you very much for all the blessings you've done in our lives and for the blessings of technology that we have. I mean, we're like 40 plus miles apart, and yet we're talking, seeing and talking to each other and sharing, reading. So, I mean, we can do all kinds of things, and it's just very, very, very cool. And I thank you. And also, though, we would ask for your blessings on our marriage and on our children and on our grandchildren. That's just crazy. I don't feel that old. But anyway, yeah. Okay. Well, and please, Lord, just bless the president and Congress and the Senate and the judges and all the leaders in our nation, and bless our nation, and bless your city, Jerusalem's peace, Father, and just continue to work in the lives of all the Muslims. Draw them to you, Lord. And I just pray that you would work wonders in this presidential election. And that we, sorry, it's loud. Okay. And I pray this all in your holy Son, Jesus' name. Do you have anything here?
And Lord, we just stand on your promise that you will give us a home, rental or our own home, preferably our own home, so we don't have to deal with, well, we still have things, stressors to deal with if we own a home. But either way, it'll be perfect. You know, you already have that home for us, and we stand on that promise, and we have faith that it will come about. We just don't see it right now, and we don't see how it's going to come about, but we have faith that you will do it. And we just dedicate that home to you. It's not ours, it's yours. And the work that we will do for you in that home. And Lord, I pray for anybody who watches this video, and that you touch them, and that you guide them, and you provide for them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Cool.
Okay, well, I'll see you possibly this afternoon or...
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, love you.
Love you too, babe.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.